Charlotte woke up choking on air. The white ceiling above her spun as if it were falling, and the sharp smell of antiseptic burned her nose. Her fingers clawed at the sheets instinctively, her heart racing as panic surged through her chest. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice hoarse and unfamiliar even to herself. A man stood beside the hospital bed, tall, well-dressed. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept in days. "You're awake," he said quickly, reaching for her hand. "Thank God." "Charlotte, can you hear me?" She stared at him. Something about his face felt important, familiar in a distant, uncomfortable way, but nothing came, no warmth, no memory, no recognition. "I'm sorry," she said slowly, pulling her hand back. "Who are you?" The room went dead silent. A doctor stepped forward carefully. "Mrs. Whitmore, you were in an accident. You've been through a lot. Memory loss can happen in situations like this." The man's lips trembled. "I'm your husband." Her heart slammed painfully against her ribs. "My husband?" she repeated. The word tasted wrong. Before anyone could explain further, Charlotte squeezed her eyes shut as a sharp pain exploded behind her forehead. Images flickered, warm light, laughter, hope, and then darkness swallowed them whole. Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional, dramatic billionaire stories filled with twists and unforgettable characters, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. Your support helps this channel grow and brings you even better stories. 24 hours earlier, Charlotte Whitmore had been standing barefoot on cold bathroom tiles, staring at a pregnancy test in her shaking hands. 2 pink lines. She let out a broken laugh, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, it finally worked." For 5 years, she and her husband had tried. Doctors, treatments, silent nights filled with disappointment. She had cried herself to sleep more times than she could count, wondering if she was broken. But now she wasn't. She pressed a hand to her stomach, her chest swelling with joy. "You're here," she murmured softly. "I promise I'll protect you." Her first instinct was to call him, but no, this deserved more, something special. Charlotte spent the entire day planning the perfect evening. She chose a soft wine-colored dress he loved, lit candles throughout the dining room, and cooked his favorite meal herself, even though the staff insisted they could handle it. "No," she said, smiling to herself. "Tonight, I want it to be just us." As dusk fell, she set the table, heart fluttering with anticipation. She imagined his reaction, shock, then disbelief, then that rare, genuine smile. He only showed her. She reached for the champagne. Her smile faded. The cabinet was empty. She frowned, checking again. Nothing. "Of course," she sighed. "The one night I need it." She glanced at the clock. He wouldn't be home for another hour. "I'll be quick," she told herself, grabbing her purse and keys. "He won't even notice." The drive to the store was short, her thoughts drifting as she rehearsed what she would say. "I have a surprise for you." "No, guess." "No, close your eyes first." She laughed softly, excitement buzzing through her veins. But when she returned to the mansion, something felt off the moment she pulled into the driveway. Her husband's car was already there. Charlotte frowned. "That's strange." She stepped out, scanning the house. All the lights were on, but there was no movement, no staff rushing to greet her, no voices. They probably went to their quarters, she reasoned. Maybe he sent them away early. Her heart skipped happily. Maybe he planned something too. She walked inside, calling out softly, "I'm back." No answer. As she set the champagne on the counter, her eyes landed on something that didn't belong there. A handbag, familiar, brown leather with a gold clasp, her best friend's bag. Charlotte blinked, then smiled. Oh, she must be here to celebrate with me. Warmth filled her chest. How thoughtful. She picked up the champagne again and headed toward the bedroom, her steps light, her heart pounding with joy. That was when she heard it. A laugh, low, intimate, her husband's voice, and another woman's voice answering him. Charlotte stopped walking. Her smile froze. She told herself she was imagining things, that the walls were playing tricks on her, that this was nothing. Then she heard her name. "She really has no idea," the woman said, amused. "Sometimes I almost feel bad." Charlotte's breath hitched. She moved closer, her pulse roaring in her ears. The bedroom door was shut, locked. Her fingers trembled as she pressed her ear to the door, and that was when her world began to crack. Charlotte's hands flew to her mouth as if she could physically push the words back inside. 3 years, her husband said from behind the door, his voice lazy, careless. 3 years, and she never once suspected a thing. The woman laughed softly. "That's because she trusts too easily. Honestly, sometimes I'm impressed." Charlotte's knees weakened. She leaned against the wall, her chest tightening so painfully she thought she might scream. "No one can blame her," her husband continued. "She worships me, and she needed me. Her father's company didn't just fall into my hands by luck. There was a pause, a sound, fabric shifting, breath hitching. "You don't regret it?" the woman asked quietly. "Using her like that?" "Regret?" He scoffed. "She got her fairy tale. I got control. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement." Charlotte's vision blurred. Then came the words that destroyed her completely. "At least now," the woman said, almost teasing, "we don't have to hide as much, especially since my son is growing. He looks more like you every day." Charlotte's heart stopped. "Thank God she believes that long-distance boyfriend story," her husband replied. "Imagine if she ever found out the boy is mine." A sharp ringing filled Charlotte's ears. Her best friend's child, the one she had held, the one she bought birthday gifts for, the one she defended when people whispered. Her grip on the champagne loosened. The bottle slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud, miraculously not breaking. Inside the room, the voices paused. Charlotte didn't wait to hear more. She picked up the bottle silently, turned around, and walked away on shaking legs. Each step felt like she was moving through water, her body numb, her heart splintering with every breath. She didn't cry. Not yet. She walked out of the house she had once believed was her safe place, got into her car, and drove without direction until the city lights blurred into unfamiliar streets. She stopped at the first bar she saw. It was small, dimly lit, and smelled of old wood and alcohol. No one looked twice at her when she walked in. No one recognized her. She liked that. She sat at the counter and spoke before the bartender could ask questions. Something strong. He raised an eyebrow. "Rough night?" "You have no idea," she muttered. The glass burned her throat, but she welcomed the pain, ordered another, then another. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She didn't check it. A man slid onto the stool beside her after a while, not too close, not too far. "You look like someone who shouldn't be drinking alone," he said gently. She laughed bitterly. "I look like someone who just lost her entire life." He studied her face, his eyes thoughtful. "Then maybe you shouldn't be alone." She turned to him, really looked at him this time. He was handsome in a quiet way, not polished or arrogant. There was something guarded about him, something tired. "Are you always this bold?" she asked. "Only when it feels necessary," he replied. She took another sip. "I don't even know your name." "Neither do I know yours," he said. "But somehow, that feels like the point." She hesitated, then whispered, "Charlotte." He nodded. "Nice to meet you, Charlotte. I'm Ethan." They talked. About, nothing. About everything. She didn't mention her husband, or the pregnancy, or the betrayal. She just talked about how tired she was of being perfect, of trying so hard, of loving people who didn't love her back. Ethan listened, didn't interrupt, didn't offer solutions. At some point, she rested her head briefly on his shoulder. He stiffened, then relaxed, letting her. "You don't have to save me," she murmured. "I know," he replied quietly, "but I can sit here with you." The rest of the night blurred. Charlotte woke up to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains. Panic shot through her instantly. She sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest. Ethan was asleep beside her, fully clothed except for his jacket, one arm hanging off the bed like he'd passed out mid-thought. "What did I do?" she whispered, her heart racing. Shame flooded her. Fear. Regret. She dressed quickly, her hands shaking, and slipped out without a word. The cool morning air hit her face as she stepped onto the sidewalk. Her head throbbed. Her phone buzzed again and again inside her purse. She ignored it. She had taken only a few steps when a loud horn blasted behind her. She turned. Too late. Pain exploded through her body as the world flipped violently. The sky disappeared. The ground rushed up. Then nothing. Charlotte's world went black. When she came to, the sharp scent of antiseptic filled her nose, and the cold touch of a hospital sheet clung to her skin. Her head pounded as if someone was hammering from the inside out. She blinked, disoriented, her vision swimming between the bright white walls and the equipment beeping softly beside her. She tried to sit up. Pain seared through her lower abdomen. Her hand flew there instinctively. Nothing. Nothing but emptiness and a deep, gnawing fear. A voice came, calm, steady, and yet filled with urgency. "Charlotte, you're awake. Good. You're awake." She turned her head slowly. A man stood there, tall, crisp in a suit. The way he looked at her, his eyes soft, worried, made her chest ache, though she didn't know why. Where am I?" Her voice was small, foreign. "You're in the hospital," the man said carefully. "You were in an accident. You've been through a lot, but you're safe now." Charlotte blinked. "Accident? I don't understand." The doctor stepped forward. A kind-faced woman with a clipboard. "You suffered trauma in a car accident. There was also some internal injury, and unfortunately, you lost the baby." Charlotte's stomach twisted. Her hand flew to her abdomen again, as if checking for a presence that should have been there. "My baby?" Her voice trembled, tears threatening. "I'm so sorry," the doctor said softly. "Additionally, you're experiencing partial amnesia. You remember your life before your marriage, but the events of the last several years, they are not accessible right now." Charlotte's mind spun. Pre-marriage? She tried to recall her life with him, her husband, her pregnancy, the house, the betrayal. Nothing. Just blank walls, shadows, confusion. The man stepped closer. "Charlotte, it's me, your husband. I've been so worried." Something about his face felt familiar, but not enough to ease the panic bubbling inside her. "Husband," she repeated. I don't..." She swallowed hard, her voice cracking. "I don't remember." His lips trembled. It's okay. I'll stay. I'll help you. We'll get through this." Charlotte pulled the sheets tighter around her shoulders. Her chest heaved with sobs she couldn't fully explain. There was anger she didn't know where it came from, sadness she couldn't name, and a hollow ache in her heart. Later that day, the man who had been beside her in the bar, Ethan, appeared at the hospital. She had no memory of him, but the way he looked at her, like she was the only thing that mattered in the world, made her heart skip, even though she didn't understand why. "I'm glad I found you," he said quietly, leaning against the wall just outside her room. "I was worried you'd disappear again." Charlotte stared at him. She didn't know his name, his intentions, or why her chest felt so strange in his presence. But the warmth in his eyes, the gentle steadiness of his demeanor, made her feel safe. Something she hadn't felt in months, even though she couldn't recall the betrayal she'd endured. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Someone who wants to help," he said simply. "That's all you need to know for now." Charlotte's mind tried to protest, tried to find a reason to distrust him. She remembered her life before. Her marriage, friends, family, her father's company, but there was no room in her fragmented memory for deceit, betrayal, or heartbreak. Meanwhile, her husband waited outside, his hand tapping nervously against his leg, fear written across his face. He had seen her fragile state, her vulnerability, and he wanted desperately to reclaim what was his. He needed her back in his life, but with her memory lost, the battlefield had changed entirely. Days passed in a blur. Nurses came and went, Medications were administered, and the hum of hospital machines became a strange kind of rhythm she clung to for comfort. Ethan visited often, always calm, always patient, never demanding anything, simply existing as a quiet anchor she didn't understand yet relied on. One evening, Charlotte wandered near the hospital window, looking out at the city skyline bathed in amber twilight. The warm glow reflected in her eyes, but the ache inside remained. She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling exposed and small. Ethan stepped beside her. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly. Charlotte nodded slowly. Yes, it is, but I feel lost. I don't know who I am anymore." "You're not lost," he said gently. "You just haven't remembered yet, and when you do, we'll face it together." Charlotte glanced at him, her heart unconsciously warming to his words. There was something trustworthy, solid, and flawed too. He was human, imperfect, but comforting in a way she had never expected. Suddenly her phone buzzed. She picked it up and saw a message from an unknown number. Her eyes widened as she read, "Do you remember the night you ran away from your marriage?" Her fingers trembled. She stared out the window, the city lights reflecting in her tear-filled eyes. Something inside her stirred, a memory she couldn't quite reach. Behind her, Ethan's hand brushed hers gently, instinctively, protective. She felt torn between safety and fear, warmth and confusion, desire and uncertainty. And somewhere in the shadows of the city, her husband watched, silent, waiting, fearful, desperate, calculating. He knew that reclaiming her heart would not be easy, but he was determined to try. Charlotte's heart raced as she read the message again, and the weight of the unknown pressed down on her. She didn't know the truth. She didn't know who to trust, and she didn't know the choices that lay ahead. Her chest tightened, her breath hitched, and the camera of her life tilted toward chaos once more. The night she thought she had escaped pain had only begun to reveal the storm that awaited. Charlotte turned slightly toward Ethan, her mind blank, but her instincts sharp. She didn't know he was the richest man in the city, only that he was kind, protective, and infuriatingly human. She felt drawn to him, though she couldn't name why. And behind the hospital blinds, her husband's shadow lingered, watching, waiting, plotting. The war for her heart, her trust, and her life was far from over. Her lips parted, a whisper of fear and hope colliding. "What is happening to me?"